Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to this week's episode of the M Word. I'm Robin. I'm the technical director at Man and Machine, and it's a pleasure to have you with me this afternoon. Exciting day here at Man and Machine Towers because we have a new toy. I'm not going to do anything with it today, but if you hear any random background noises, we've got a really nice Bamboo Lab H2S printer that we took delivery of that we're just doing some initial prints on. So any of you out there that are using Fusion, SketchUp, Inventor, and you want to know how to take your designs into a 3D print, then do keep an eye on our socials and on our feed and subscribe and make sure you're up to date to get the latest and greatest on that. And we'll do some time lapses and some how-tos. Today, however, we're doing something very construction based. And actually, I think this is a really useful session today. So we're going to jump straight in. And we're actually going to look at the Autodesk Construction Cloud and very specifically a tool called ACC Connect, Autodesk Construction Cloud Connect. You may have heard of it, but not seen much about it out here on the internet. You may have not heard of it and be wondering, what are you talking about? Well, ACC Connect is actually a flavor of a tool called Workato. So Workato is a low-code platform that supports visual programming, amongst other things, that allows you to automate certain procedures and tasks inside of many applications out there. If any of you are used to Power Automate workflows, for example, that work with the Microsoft tools, this is the same. ACC Connect gives you Power Automate-esque workflows, but directly for the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Whether you're working on docs or whether you're working on build, you have the ability to automate mundane tasks, make processes happen when they need to happen without someone doing them for you. So completely overhaul those mundane tasks and automate them. So I want to just introduce this today and show you what it can do. Hopefully you can see my screen. And I've just got a Construction Cloud project open at the moment, just one of my sample projects here called Cardano Wings. For reference, I also have the API guide for the Autodesk Construction Cloud, because we're going to have a look at that in a second. So if you're following me along on this short session, you might want to open a project that you have in ACC, and you might want to open up the API guide as well. And then I have ACC Connect open itself. Again, it's based on the Workato platform with direct connectors into the Construction Cloud. So first things first, I'm going to assume that you've got subscriptions of this and you are up and running, because there's quite a lot to getting this to a point where you can use it. Simply put, we have to make a connection between our Construction Cloud hub, or our former hub, if we want to use the new terminology now that Autodesk Construction Cloud is now former. We need to make a link between our hub within the Autodesk Docs environment or build environment over to our ACC Connect. We do that through the Connections tab. I'm not going to open that on the screen today because I've got lots of connections here that, quite frankly, I don't want you to see my credentials and links for. But you go into the connections, you click add, you choose Construction Cloud, and you log in, simply put. That creates a connection between your Construction Cloud and your ACC Connect. You can see here that we have a load of projects on the left-hand side. So it's a project-based system. And I've got a sandbox here for the UK that we use for some testing and some tweaking and playing around. And you can see that on here, we have two connections that I've made specific to my UK sandbox. You only need one in here. So when you buy ACC Connect, it comes with two connections. One of those connections will be used to connect ACC. The other one you could use to connect it up to your, I don't know, your 365 account, so that you can do some integration with SharePoint, or pull in an Excel document to be able to process through that line by line. So you get two connections with the subscription price. You can purchase more if you need to. Here is my connection for ACC. It doesn't really tell me much. It just says that I am connected. The next thing you need to do is you need to go down to your Docs account or your Build account. you need to go into your account administration, whatever tool that you're using, and you need to go to your apps. Within the apps, you need to go and search for Connect. This is alphabetical, so we're just going to scroll down and find Connect for ACC. We want to find that. We want to install it against your project, account, your hub, and then we want to activate it. And that will activate ACC Connect against every project on that hub. So let's jump into Connect. Let's go to my UK Sandbox project, and I'm going to go ahead and just go into my YouTube Live folder here. I'm just going to delete this this test that I was just making sure everything worked properly earlier. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a recipe. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to use a really simple off-the-shelf node to be able to start manipulating or working with data inside of ACC. And then I'm going to show you how to create a custom node using API so that you understand how you can start pulling information when you don't have a node that works for you. Firstly, when you create a recipe, you need to define a trigger. So I'm just going to give this a name of YouTube Live just here. I'm going to place it in my YouTube Live folder. So we give it a location. And then we pick a starting point. So do I want to trigger this from an app? For example, I could say that I want to create a trigger from ACC when something is created or when something is updated. So I could use trigger from app. I could say start building. And then as part of my trigger, I can say I would like this recipe, this script to start from the Construction Cloud when something is added or updated in a project. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to say, I want my recipe to be based on when something is either added or updated on this project. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click my connection to define that's the connection that I want to use. As I've said, it's already connected up to my ACC. And then that gives me a number of items. So I can say, run this when a cost object is added, when a document is added, when a form is added, when an issue is added, and when a takeoff object is added. It is an exhaustive list. That is quite small. If what you're after is not here, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means there isn't an off-the-shelf node to capture it. And again, I'll talk you through the process of working around that in a second. I'm just going to say document on here. It's the simplest thing to grab. So I want to identify when a document is created. I'm then going to pick my account name. This is the hub name. You hopefully won't have as many as me, but whatever Autodesk account you have linked ACC Connect to, pick your ACC hub, and then you would pick your project from the list. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find that. If I find Robin's ACC, that's just a test account that I've got, a test project. It doesn't matter what I put in there, so I'm going to pick that one for this example. We can then drill down to a specific folder. So I can either choose from a drop-down with any of these, or I can specify an ID. If you're ever specifying an ID, you can grab all of these mostly from ACC directly. If you look at your link at the top in ACC, first long ID number you have here, that's your hub ID. The second one you have will be your project ID. So if I go and find my ACC project that we're looking at and go and open up a project folder. So let's go to Docs and let's go to one of the folders. There we go. So the first one is my project. There we go. So that one there finishing in 2A is my Robin's ACC project. And then we've got our folder URN here, which defines my folder ID. So you can grab all of this should you need to from the URLs. I'm just going to use the dropdown. It's easier. So select a folder. I'm going to use the project files folder, and I'm purposely going to find one that I think I could probably get away with using. So let's grab automation test. So it's going to keep an eye on that folder. I'm not fussed about any subfolders there. I just want to look purely inside of this folder. And I want to go ahead and look for anything that happens from today. So from the very start of today, this is US format. I want to pick up any changes, but I could future date this if I wanted to. We have got an optional in here. I'm just going to leave everything as default and I'm going to hit save. We could go on and have conditions. So only look for files of a certain type, files uploaded from a certain user, files with a specific name, files of a specific status, you name it. I'm going to be lazy. I don't really care about that for now. I just want to have this trigger. And then what I'm going to do is add an action. When you click the plus, you get a load of options here. You've got the ability to perform an action within an application. So do something in ACC. I've got a recipe function, which would repeat or create a link to a recipe function that repeats for several things. So if you've got a recipe that goes and does something for everything that you send it. So for every file, go and do this one thing, you could use a recipe function for that. You've got if statements, you've got a for loop, so a repeat loop, as well as a while repeat, and then you've got some error handling. I'm just going to say, go ahead and do an action in app. So for every file that I add into my folder, I want to do something in Autodesk Construction Cloud. And again, I've got a whole load of options on here. I'm not going to go through all of them today because we just don't have time. But again, it's not an exhaustive list of what you're able to do because you can perform custom actions. I'm just going to do something really, really random. So I'm just going to say for every file that's updated, I want to create an object in a project. The object I want to create, I could do a cost object, a folder, an issue, a request for information. I could create a webhook to go and trigger something else on a different system. I'm going to say that I want to create a folder. I'll keep this really simple, but this could easily be an issue. Maybe we'll use an issue. Let's use an issue. I want to go ahead and create an issue. No, we'll use folder. It would be easier. Let's create a folder. I select my account again. I select my project again. So naturally, this could be across multiple projects. Let's go and find my Robbins ACC. And then select my folder, which was automation files, I think I chose. Lovely. And then the name of that folder, I could just type in a name here, but I can also use these pills, these data pills, to access anything that exists from previous actions in my recipe. I don't have much going on here within this recipe, but I've got this new or updated document in a project in Autodesk Construction Cloud. And you'll notice here that I have the ability to use this scroll and I can find information from that trigger and I can reuse it. So for example, I've got my account ID, I've got my project ID, I've got my document ID. I've also got attributes like the document name, the user ID, the user person, that's really bad English, the user name for the person that has created that file. I'm going to say, go ahead and use the display name, followed by a space, dash, space, and then the username. So I'm going to create a folder that's got the name of the file, a dash, and then the user that's created that file as the name of the folder. I'm going to say save. That recipe is now there. It's ready to be tested. I'm just going to click test recipe. It's going to check for a trigger and it says, I can't find anything because I've not created anything in that folder. So let's go and jump into docs. Let's go into that automation test and let's go into, what could I use here? Let's use, no, something really simple. Notepad. Let's open up Notepad and let us create a test file. Let's save that. In my downloads is probably just fine. And then what I'll do is I shall drag that from my downloads into my automation test folder. So I'm creating a file. This would be the same if I was updating a file with this particular example. I'm then going to go over to ACC Connect. And I'm just going to say, check now. It would sit there and check for several minutes, but I'm going to say, go and check now. And you'll notice if you had eagle eyes that said trigger found, processing recipe. It's not really doing much here, but it found the trigger because I uploaded a file and it's processed my recipe. It then says it was successful. I can click any one of these and it gives me some feedback to say what's happened. And I can see here that it's created a folder. I can see all the attributes of that folder and exactly what it's done. If I head over to my Construction Cloud and do a little refresh, I can see now that I have this folder that's been created against this file. If you go on and say, okay, well, I can see what it's doing there, but that's not very useful. Let's go back to the recipe. Let's delete that action. And let's say, okay, well, actually what I want to do is based on that file being uploaded, I want to create an issue. And imagine that when someone uploads a Revit file or a design file, you want someone to go and check that file. What is it? Why has it been uploaded? Is it fit for the purpose that it's been uploaded for? Does it need to be integrated into any links or anything like that? What needs to happen based on that file being uploaded? So I'm going to choose the same process. When a file is updated or loaded into a project, I'm going to create an issue. The issue is going to be against my MAM Limited account, and the project is going to be my Robin ACC project. We start getting more options here on the right because an issue has far more metadata than a folder. So it's going to say, what type of issue do you want to use? And it's pulling all of these from my project template. I'm just going to say that this is a general issue. The subtype is general. The title is going to be ACC Connect is great dash the file name. The status is going to be pending. Published value is going to be yes, so that everyone can see it that needs to see it. The description is going to be the username, space, uploaded, space, this display name on this time. We could fill that out. Full stop. Please check this file and see what needs to be actioned or updated. We can have start dates, end dates. These are all optional, so I'm going to leave them for the purpose of speed today. But I am going to just scroll down through them and show you that you basically have all of the available fields that you have directly inside of the Construction Cloud or former data management. I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to go ahead and press save. I'm going to test the recipe again. It's going to sit and do the same thing. So let's once again go and update this. Test 2, this is nice. And I'm going to this time do an update of the file by dragging it over. This will create a version 2 of my test.txt. And I'm going to press done. Off the back of that, then creating an update in that file, we should be able to recheck our trigger. Do that a couple of times. Did I do only new? I must have done only new. My apologies. Let's go and update the name of this. My 3D printer is now singing at me to tell me it's done. And I'm going to update test 2. So now based on test 2 existing inside of that project, rather than creating a new folder, it's going to go ahead and it's going to create a new issue. That issue, again, you can get feedback directly from here. If I go into docs, if I go into issues, I should be able to see at the top of my list, a new issue has been added automatically. Now, this is where things get really exciting if you're a geek like me. I've just created a process or automated a process whereby it doesn't matter who uploads a file, it's now creating an issue which I could easily assign to an individual or a group that says, go and do something. go and action this. But really, this is only limited to what we can do with the API, which is a huge amount of possibilities. I could say, when I add an asset onto build, I want to attach that asset with a number of forms. I could say, when an RFI is created, I want to go and do XYZ. Or when a file is uploaded, automatically create an RFI and send it to this person to say, these files are now there ready for you. You've got a whole load of possibilities that you can use to your benefit here. The ability to start automating mundane tasks is huge. We have personally used this functionality to great effect. We had a huge load of data that we needed to upload and migrate into ACC with a load of custom metadata. We processed all of the files individually as uploaded files. And then against those individual files, we then processed through an Excel spreadsheet, which held columns and columns and columns of metadata against each file. And we simply said, go through each row, go and get the file that that row relates to and update all the metadata. We've got endless possibilities here of syncing data between submittals and files, RFIs and files, assets and files, whatever it might be, automatically using ACC Connect. If you can't see the action that you want to perform, it's not the end of the world. So you would have seen that there were no things in there for assets. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to start tapping into something like the assets inside of ACC. So I'm going to go ahead and once again, just exit this. I'm going to create a new recipe for the purpose of this. And let's say this time we just want to run this on a schedule. I'm just going to run this once and forget about it. But when you run something on a schedule, you can choose how often you want to trigger this process. So every 5 minutes, fine. But maybe on a condition, only Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, whatever it might be. And then in here, I can say I want to perform an action. And I want to perform an action within the Autodesk Construction Cloud. But this time, I want to create a custom action using this connection. So I still only use my initial connection that I have for ACC, but I'm telling it that I want to do something custom. It's a bit more complicated to do this, and I'm going to explain it the best I can, but clearly reach out, come and have a conversation with us because we can really help you understand A, what you can use this for, and B, help you get your recipes created. I'm going to go on to the developer's guide now, which shows me what we can do with the application programming interfaces, APIs, that Autodesk give you for the Construction Cloud. I'm going to go to the API reference, and this shows me all of the different APIs that I can use to push information with a post, get information with a get, or update information with a patch, for example. If I go into assets, you can see that I can post assets to create individual or batch amounts of assets. You can see that I can get assets, and I can also patch assets, which will update them. I'm just going to show you how I can get a list of assets from my project. So I'm going to go across to Get Assets V2. This gives me everything that I need to drive a custom API push to the Construction Cloud. I have a URL here. I'm going to go and copy that. So I'm going to select it and copy it with Control-C. I'm going to go to my recipe. I'm going to say my action name is going to be Get Assets. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to give it a name. The method is a get. How do I know that? Well, it told me here. Get. So I'm going to get from this path. So I've literally flat pasted in that information. And from there, I can start to give it information that it needs to perform its action. It's asking for a project ID here. What do I use? Go to ACC and find the project that you want to use. I've got a project here called Cardano Wings Hospital, which has got a load of assets. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab this number from my URL. That number after project, but before the question mark, is my project ID. You can also get it from settings, and it will show you, no, it won't, my mistake. Get it from the URL, and it will show you that project in the URL. I could just paste that in here, but I'm actually going to add a step where I add an action, and the action I'm going to search for is variable. I can add variables like a string or an integer for a number or a double for a length. I'm just going to say create a variable. The variable I want to add is called project ID. It's a string, add variable. And I'm just going to give it a fixed value. I could update it several times in the recipe, but I'm going to give it a fixed value here. So I've got a value of this under project ID. I can then select get assets. I can go to my project ID here, and I can use my data pill to grab my project ID variable. So this is going to say, go and get assets. I then have the ability to send certain request parameters or just define a response. If we go back to my API call, I'm just going to take a swig of tea, which has gone cold. And from here, if I scroll down, it shows you URI parameters, sorry. I've got project ID. I've already given it that. But then I've got these query strings that I can use. So I can add a limit to say, I want to only pull 25 or 100. There is an upper limit of 200. If you have more than 200, you have to go through pages. I'm not going to go through that today, but it's possible. We can also filter by a specific name or a specific label or category ID. So I'm going to just show you how to add, I don't know, let's do 2. Let's do limit and let's do maybe status label. Maybe that's a good one to do. So let's come in here. Let's add a URL parameter and let's have limit and add field. I want to pull 200 as a limit. And then add a second one, which is going to be, what did I say? I'll do it on status label. So I'm just going to copy that one and I'm going to paste it into there. Helps if I type the right thing. Filter. I'm pretty sure it was lowercase. Let's just double check. Yeah, filter. So that's looking for status label. So if I go back to my build section, look at my assets. I'm going to have a status label in here, which has a value, and I can use that to filter. So I'm going to pick the top one here, set 2. Set space 2. Set space 2. I'm going to hit save on there. I'm going to go back to my API, scroll all the way down, and you'll see an example response right at the bottom here. I can use that response. I don't have to do this next step, but if I don't, ACC Connect Workato won't know what format the response should come across in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this example response. I'm going to copy the whole lot. I'm going to grab everything, select it all, copy it with Control-C, go to my recipe, and in my response body, I'm going to say use JSON and paste in there. This will use the example to generate a schema. I'm then going to say save, and I'm going to say test. This is going to use the custom pull. It's going to connect to the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and it's going to give me a load of results. It's going to give me every single asset that I have on my project that has set 2 as the status. And we can see each one of these is giving me a result. So I've got all of these individual results. I could then use these to do something. So if you wanted to, I don't know, do something with each one of those, or if you wanted to export a list or whatever it might be, I could come in here and add as many additional steps as you want to and start using the data pills from this result to loop through them in turn. Again, you've got a really good capability here, which allows you to start automating processes, automating mundane tasks, and just making your life so much easier. And that is all I wanted to show you today with regards to ACC Connect. It is a hugely complex application. Yes, it simplifies coding, but you still need to understand how to do development to get this to work properly. The amount of off-the-shelf connections it has is a little bit limited. As you can see, it's great for documents, it's great for RFIs, it's great for forms and things like that, but it doesn't go to the breadth that your Construction Cloud will. But we can use custom connections within the API to be able to post any of those that we need. Really useful tool. Anything that you're doing regularly as a mundane task that's a very set process, we can automate it with this. Please reach out, give us a call. If you haven't already, give us a like and give us a subscribe so you can see when this kind of really useful content goes live. And if you've seen something that's useful, please reach out and have a conversation, because I really like to think using this tech, we can take something that's currently zapping man hours, really slowing the project down, and we can just make it slick. We can make it automated, and we can save you a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of stress. Thank you ever so much for watching, and we will catch you next time for another episode of The M Word. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.